Wow. I'm like speechless. That was such a good and insightful episode. And Brian, I imagine you probably don't really have much time to have a little bonus section here. So,
Just like a couple. I can be kind of getting my class stuff
um,
prepped.
it just seems like what's happening in the culture is that everybody's just following their impulses now, and they're going after all these very easy, like you said, getting the candy and not wanting to face anything difficult. Like, what is there something in our culture that should change, or is there other than just parents really looking out? I mean, it just seems I don't even know. It just seems like there's just all this stuff, like you said, competing for our attention. Um, what advice have you given your kids, or how have you navigated this?
Yeah. Well, none of my kids are married yet, so I guess I can't claim complete success yet. But I think two things that intersect here that I think are important. We talked a lot about on-demand relationships and how things are easy and customizable. I think parents can. What we've done with our kids is you can limit some of that. Like you can limit how much access to social media and to online entertainment your kids have. That I think is an important part of teaching them that, like, yeah, sometimes you do need to work for things, and you can't just sit and bury yourself in devices. We've been very intentional with our kids about social media access and technology access and media access, and not without lots of fights and lots of my friends get this and this. I do think, by the way, one of the easiest markers of good parenting is if your kids are constantly telling you that their friends get more than you're
Good.
giving them, you're probably doing a good job.
That's
I always
good.
just tell my kids that, well, most parents don't love their kids as much as mom and I love you. But I think the other piece of that, though, is a core of all of this, and this cuts deeper than just relationships. It cuts to the mental health crisis we're seeing in the young adulthood now. Is resiliency across the board is on the decline. Young adults and teenagers have lower ability to handle hardship and trial and conflict in their life than really any previous generation that we've seen, at least documented on the clinical side. And on the parenting side, it's, well, what can I do with that? Well, what you can do is give your kids opportunities to fail. And a lot of parents are scared to do that. I'm still a very strong proponent of things like sports. Now, I have a lot of issues with the club sports scene and the costs and things like that. But whether it's sports or orchestra or drama or all these kind of extracurricular activities, really encouraging your kids to do them, not just because they're good to help us be balanced human beings, because they give us opportunities to fail and to not make the team and to not get the part and to have hard things happen, and then to coach your kids on, well, what do you do? What do you do when you don't make the freshman team? What do you do when you got rejected from this thing that you really wanted to do? It's these basic things that a lot of parents, I think, are sheltering their kids from a little bit. Getting jobs, learning to drive a car, doing extracurricular activities, doing that and coaching them how to succeed through failure, I think will have benefits not just in their dating life, but in a lot of areas of their life.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that
I love that.
and that I like that dare to fail. That's something I learned years ago, and be okay with failure, learn from it because it's a great learning tool. That lack of resilience, do you think that's also affecting the younger generations, for lack of a better term, employability?
I think a little bit. I mean, one of the things that we've seen that's changed a lot in the job market has been the transitions. Most young adults now, used to be, I guess if you went three or so generations, two or three generations back, you kind of pick your career field and that's what you do. But now we know young adults are jumping field to field, job to job. Their residential mobility is way higher than it used to be. They might start in California and end up in Massachusetts and then Florida. And so that, just by the nature of what employment looks like for a lot of them, it requires a lot more resiliency because you have to learn different skills, try different fields, move around different places. So I do think it's affecting them a little bit. And then you add, AI and all these other things, the value of a college education on the decline. it's hard. And like I said earlier, I think the nature of the job market and the struggles they're having in the job market, a lot of young adults in their 20s, it's compounding the stress and anxiety they feel. I'm so stressed about work. I'm so stressed about life. I'm so stressed about my appearance. I'm so stressed about friends. I'm feeling disconnected from my family. All of that just, makes it to like, I can't even imagine getting myself ready for a date this week.
Well, it also would seem to affect like, I got a job opportunity out in Massachusetts. Well, my job is here. How can we're just going to move? That would seem like it would make it harder too for marriages, or like you were saying, and I thought was profound, was that people see marriage and commitment as like this loss or something. And it seems like they might attach it to that.
Yeah, because the reality is that most people, if they choose to marry young, before they've really got their career established, they will have that moment in the relationship, where almost all couples now have dual careers of some sort, where we will have to prioritize someone. And when I wrote my book, The Millennial Marriage, and I was interviewing young couples in their 20s, most have been married for just a couple of years. This was a very common, almost universal stress point for them. And they almost all had to make the same decision of, we can't equally prioritize both of our careers. So someone, even if I have my career and I have movement, we had to prioritize someone. We had to decide, are we moving to Montana or are we moving to Nebraska, based on whose job are we going to prioritize? And that was hard for a lot of them in today's world, where that is kind of held up as like, well, this is the most important thing in your life, is your career. It's hard for them to shift and say, well, maybe the most important thing in your life is your family, is your spouse, is your kids, and your job and your career is a nice thing that can bring some satisfaction and fulfillment. But it's the old we versus me, that I can get job satisfaction because I'm doing something I like, and my spouse has this great opportunity that really helps us. I'd add one more thing to that. One thing that I think very few couples are thinking about along those lines, and I'll connect this back to one of my retired colleagues, Jeff Hale, who spent most of his career, looking at work-family balance things. And it was always so great to point out this idea of, most people make, even in a marriage, these career decisions based on how much money will we make, or how happy will I be, and not thinking about, how do we maybe both take a job that's not as ideal for us, but because it works best for us together? What's the we combination of those jobs where, maybe I take this job and it's a little less pay, but I get to spend more time with you. And you're taking this job, and it's not the most ideal with your set of skills, but it provides some flexibility so we can do some traveling together. Thinking more holistically about job selection rather than just these couple core, more individual things that we tend to do.
Yeah, I agree.
We got to let you go. We got to let it go.
Yeah.
But I want to keep going.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Brian.
Rex.
Yeah, Brian, it's been so great.
This has been
Thank you.
incredible.
It's been such an honor, Brian. It's been meeting you.
Thanks for joining us today. Hey, do us a favor and take a second to subscribe to our podcast and the Utah Marriage Commission YouTube channel at Utah Marriage Commission, where you can watch this and every episode of the show. Be sure to smash the like button, leave a comment, and share this episode with a friend. You can also follow and interact with us on Instagram at Stronger Marriage Life and Facebook at Stronger Marriage. So be sure to share with us which topics you loved or which guests we should have on the show next. If you want even more resources to improve your marriage or relationship connection, visit strongermarriage.org, where you'll find free workshops, e-courses, in-depth webinars, relationship surveys, and more. Each episode of Stronger Marriage Connection is hosted and sponsored by the Utah Marriage Commission at Utah State University. And finally, a big thanks to our producer, Rex Polanis, and the team at Utah State University, and you, our audience. You make this show possible. The opinions, findings, conclusions, and recommendations expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of the Utah Marriage Commission.